it's tricky because there's other RVs like this, but there aren't other RVs exactly like this. Hey everybody! Ooh, that's bright. Josh the RV Nerd with Bish's RV down here at Rockwood in Flagstaff today. Taking a look at what's new and updated here on the very popular, Rockwood calls it 2618. I never remember the Flagstaff numbers. I apologize, but they're two names for the exact same thing. Rockwood calls it Ultra, Flagstaff calls it Super. Either way, it's pretty fantastic. This thing comes in right about 30 foot on the nose. And you've seen plenty of other builders with layouts like this. Like Cougar has something kind of laid out like it, but they always find a way to do it different at Rockstaff. Like this has a drop frame front storage compartment, giving you that kind of borderline fifth wheel feels. And they open up that true queen bedroom by not having side wardrobe towers, but they more than make up for it with a large closet slide that gains you some extra dresser space. Now these have an all aluminum skeleton, dual composite walls, a better torsion suspension system that I personally think is fantastic for like highway road use and running and stuff like that. But it also, you have Goodyear tires with balancing beads and tire pressure monitoring. Like this is something really tuned finely for towing and going. That being said, there's certain things like the loaded hitch weight of this I think might challenge a lot of half tons. So you may want to look more toward a little bit of a 3/4 here. It might depend a little bit on a couple different factors. More on that later. We have solid surface counters. Awesome bedroom storage in this one. And some people last year, they didn't quite like what was happening under the kitchen counter. So they went to a slim profile electric space heating fireplace, which provides the same BTUs of heating and doesn't eat up near as much cabinet space. Why the industry is just now starting to get into these, I don't know, but I am so glad to see it there. Now, I barely scratched the surface on this thing. It's an awesome model. There's a lot of other really good factors going on. I'm really curious to know what you think about this one, and if you appreciate how we tell you the good with the bad, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Know that we'll shoot you straight. All right, so let's get in it here. One of the cool things about this floor plan, it has a lot of window coverage, not always in what I think some people would consider optimal campsite locations, but it's not completely barren on the campsite either, so it's just kind of a mix of things. Now, real quick, you do have the option of going with a hide-a-bed. I really wish personally they would go back to having the folding central armrest instead of the hard fixed console on those theater seats. That's just my personal preference, especially since they do have dedicated cup holders in the side armrests of that theater sofa. That right there is such a small, stupid, painfully underrated feature that I kind of wish more builders would pay attention to. I think just the average buyer doesn't look for those, so they don't worry about trying to spend money on them. Now, back here, this is what I call normally a true U-dinette, where it's about 7 foot wide, give or take a little bit. You might notice how there's a little bit of a back stand on either of those left-right dinette benches. So it is central, it is symmetrical, and they do use a telescopic like gas strut kind of leg system, so it's very sturdy, very stable, and if you fold it down into a sleeper, still maintains center support, which a lot of dinettes don't. So if anything other than a Doberman lays on it, they end up buckling the table half the time. You won't need to deal with that here. The window coverage, again, let me just start panning around a slow look at this. Other than the window in the entry door, everything's going to open for airflow. Now, how much it opens will depend actually on the package that you choose to get on this RV. The base package will have the more traditional airflow windows, as I believe. They've updated that for this year, but then they have the Platinum package, which will upgrade to the frameless windows we're looking at right now. Frameless windows look awesome, and they tilt, so you can get some rainy day airflow, but they don't open very much, so they don't get a ton of airflow, so keep that in mind. You do have solid surface counters. You have, look where they put the kitchen power outlets. They put them on that front wall because it's hollow, so they can put them kind of where it makes more sense, essentially, as opposed to putting them under an overhead cabinet that's too far away. It's also a larger oven. And look at the lower cabinet space, how good they've gotten about putting toe kicks all over the place. But this right here, I'm shocked it's taken the industry to finally start using more of these slim profile electric space heaters that we call fireplaces. It produces the same heat as one that's like 3 foot wide without eating up a massive amount of cabinet space. It's, in my opinion, it's so much more functional because it's the same, you get more cabinet space as a result. That is, by the way, a 12 volt smart TV. Now, by default, I think that's only, yeah, that's a 32 inch. It literally says on the sticker. I don't even have to memorize it. I just have to learn how to read two numbers, but that's too difficult for me. But notice how they didn't box it in. So if you wanted to put a bigger TV up there, you probably could. I think a 40 inch would probably still be okay. Understand you're going to start cheating in on this space a little bit, but I think you'll be able to pretty much do it and get away with it right here. One other little detail I want to point out is the location of the converter fuse box right by the door. If you need to pop fuses, being able to like take a knee on the entry steps and be close to those instead of belly crawling is actually really handy. And if you've never changed fuses in an RV, you don't realize how useful that actually is. Working our way around over here, they do technically have one of those refrigerator doors that can open from either direction. I don't know how useful that is on this floor plan, but I guess depending on what you have in your hands and what you're doing, it could work. It looks like they have wasted space behind the refrigerator, but if you know Rockwood and Flagstaff, you know that they will include an exterior baggage door to get to that area from the outside. Now, the problem is these RVs are parked too close together, so I won't be able to display that for you today, but please understand they have not wasted anything right there. And we've basically spun ourselves back around to where we started here. So I want to pop stuff open and give you a little deeper dive into this sucker. So we'll kick things off with the dual wall hugging kind of recliner function right here. Again, I know it's such a small detail, but the dedicated cup holders in the armrest, I have found very handy. Obviously, the other benefit of the HardFix central console is that you can fill that full of baked beans because the RV doesn't otherwise have a dedicated baked bean drawer. A lot of people painfully undervalue the benefit of having a dedicated drawer for an open can of Bush's baked beans. Highly recommend. And if you've never seen one of my videos, you're watching this right now going, what? Baked beans? What is wrong with this guy? And the answer is so many things. The last time I saw a therapist, when I left, they were weeping openly. It was just it was a whole thing. It was just a mess. Notice the extra large oven though, and the countertop extension. Enough about me. Moving back to the conversation relating to the camper. Cabinetry's hidden hinge. It's pocket screwed lumber core. If you don't know what that means, leave me a note and I'll happy to fill you in. For the sake of keeping things moving, I do want to mention these are also plywood drawers that are soft close. It looks like triple drawers. The top one's only a sponge drawer because the sink would conflict with the drawer sliding open, or shut rather, due to, well, physics, basically. Now this I thought was very interesting. When they redesigned this, and they put in that slimline fireplace, they had this extra little drawer. And at first I was like, what freaking good is this? And then I started thinking this could be really handy for like remote controls, decks of cards, little stuff like that. Like, I just love the fact that they just didn't waste it. It's not that it's gigantic. You know, a lot of brands would have just thrown a panel there and you probably wouldn't have even thought twice about it. But I like that they did. Now, right here, you might be wondering, why are the dinette cushions against the door? So that's a nighttime security measure, because you see what you do here is when you fold this down into a sleeper, if somebody tries to get into the camper, the cushions will fall at them, which will probably startle them, which will cause them to slip backwards, fall down, break their neck. You'll call the cops. You'll get a reward because it turns out it was D.B. Cooper the entire time, and you have just solved one of the greatest mysteries of American history. Congratulations. All it took was a couple dinette drawers. Pretty crazy, right? Or cushions, as it were. Now, I didn't intend to do this, but I'm going to slide backwards. While I'm looking at the air conditioner, I want to mention that's a 15,000 BTU air, but these are going to be 50 amp by default, standard, and you can get a second air in the bedroom either from the factory or after the fact, whichever you would prefer. Now that we're here, let's start by looking up to that big XL vent fan. Very handy. I call that the Fajita Friday fume fighter. And take a look at the headroom in the shower. It's a 6.5-foot sidewall, which normally puts my head all the way in the skylight, but the RV ceiling is barreled just enough that I don't necessarily have to do that. Wearing shoes that I'm wearing, I'm probably representing 6'2" on camera to give you a reference point. That is your water saver system right there. So if you're boondocking, you don't have to waste your fresh water, which is very valuable and limited, into the gray tank waiting for your water to heat up. Porcelain foot flush stool here that overall I also felt was very fluffy friendly. You may have also noticed how there's not a whole lot in the way of floor vents around here. They, as they have redesigned old models and designed new models, they have been removing those floor ducted heating vents. Now, some of your models still do have those traditional floor ducted heat vents, but again, like as they move forward, they're getting rid of those things. It just kind of depends for you. But this is one of those, again, if you've never shopped for an RV, if you've never owned an RV, you don't realize how useful all the bathroom storage they give you in here is. So if you take a look over on the left, I've cracked all this open for you. They actually give you some really good storage in this bathroom. And there's a lot of camper companies that don't even give you a place to put a single towel or bottle of shampoo or anything. And, you know, that's not what this company's doing. Now, this over here, this is your closet, dresser, wardrobe slide. I'm going to come back and get this open in a minute. I didn't quite mean to come at things from this angle. One thing I want to mention, this has a huge front pass-through compartment, but that creates this really big box beside the bed, which does reduce how far you walk around it. Now, I think it's somewhat fair to say it's not too much of a stretch to ask somebody, once you hit that point, you're kind of pulling the sheets back and crawling into bed anyway. But if, thing is, I'm tall, so that's not hard for me. Maybe if you're a little more gravity friendly, that's a bigger ask. Now, this does have a front windshield, but I wanted to pull down that privacy shade there so you can see that you can block that out if you are so inclined. Once again, you do have the ability to outfit this with a second air conditioner. You see that vent up there, that would become an air conditioner. Now, this is a dual entry door camper. Thankfully, it does have a deadbolt, and both doors do have privacy shades in them. This door could be critical for travelers, because this is the door that will allow you to access the bedroom and bathroom, because with the slide closed, you're not able to directly pass through the RV, and I'll show you that in just a few minutes here. Now, they give you kind of a split level design here where, yeah, you can lift the bed and get to some stuff like extra blankets maybe that you don't use every day, but you don't necessarily have to do that. Now, these little side stands, this one is a drawer. The other one's not, but there's actually a very good reason for that. Once again, the fact that they actually thought about this, I think, is really cool. Your overhead space, easy access. There's no dead panels. Sometimes a manufacturer will save $1, try to kill one cabinet door by putting like some dead panels between them. It makes it hard to reach some of that stuff. Now, this over here, again, it's not a drawer, but the reason they did that is because we have a closet slide over here, and they made sure that a drawer cannot accidentally conflict with that and cause any sort of problems. Now, most of the outlets in the RV actually are wired to the RV's 1800 watt factory supplied inverter. So if you're at like a travel stop, you want to run a coffee maker, CPAP machine, usually there's places that you can do that. And you haven't really seen any hanging closet space. That's all over here, but they also give you some pretty solid bonus dresser space as a result. So you're not losing storage, you're just getting it out of the way, which makes the RV generally feel far more open. So if you're kind of the claustrophobic type, the space around the bed on this one feels far more open and welcoming. But now with the slide closed here, you have to use the main entry door, and this is where you get your snack-tastic access. So bedroom, bathroom up front, kitchen and dining in the back. But here's the thing, I'm sitting at the dinette right now, because it's not mounted in the rack and pinion slide, which you should not set in. You can leave it loaded with cargo. It's different. You shouldn't set in that while it's retracted. But the dinette over here, it's not in the slide. It's just in the main body of the RV. So if you need to stop, grab a bite to eat, or even use this as a traveling guest sleeper, you still have that opportunity. But our kitchen drawers, our counter space, our prep space, even that 12-volt TV, still travel functional. So this RV actually has some good traveling aspects, but I'm not going to call it A+ travel access, just maybe a solid B due to the 2-stage pass-through function. Now, the towing on this one is a very situational case, because a lot of places are going to say it's a 30-footer, your half-ton can tow it all day long, and they're not going to ask any more questions than that. And I've learned to go a little bit further. And the thing is, this has that drop frame and a front closet slide, which adds some hitch weight, plus a lot of cargo area in the front end of this thing. It is very possible to overload the payload rating of a half ton on this. Now, if you've got a very heavy capable half ton, you're going to stay mostly flat landing. You will maybe be okay here. It depends on the truck. If you're wanting to do mountain towing and go all kinds of crazy cross country, that might not be the ideal vehicle. So it's situational. Contact our team. We can learn about your desires and we can outfit you with the RV that best fits that. So moving on from there, monster awning on this sucker. Like, I don't know how else to say it other than just, dude, serious awning space. Now, your structure, you are an all aluminum welded cage structure, even under the bed, even under the dinette. Your sidewalls, well, actually, your even your nose, all of your walls are a dual composite layering, so no Luan paneling in there, basically. You also have a radiant barrier that goes behind the nose and down through the belly. Now, I'm on the wrong side to showcase this, so apologies, but as you can see, it's kind of tight quarters here. What we're looking at today is the Ultralight Platinum package, and that includes things like the auto leveling and a bunch of other upgrades, like the sleek frameless windows. There's the, I don't remember what it's called, basically the basic package and then the fancy package. And this is one outfitted with the fancy package. So it's gonna add some nice equipment. It's gonna add some dollars. It'll add a little bit of weight. What was I gonna say? I can't remember the other thing I was going to say, but you get the idea. You could save a little bit of all that off the base package. And now the weights and measures that you saw on screen, I suspect from the factory are probably the base package, so keep that in mind. Auto leveling, again, being part of that. You might notice how you have a belly-mounted spare tire down here. And they call this a drop neck storage compartment. But, I've always called it a drop frame, kind of coming from fifth wheels. Huge frontal storage area. That gray box in the upper corner, that is your factory inverter. You have an 1800 watt inverter included with this. This also by default has 200 watts of factory solar, and you can slap on a second panel there if you are so inclined. Beyond that, there might be a little more potential to squeeze out of there, but it also does have a side plug for like a portable suitcase solar system, so kind of keep that in mind. Now, they're not by default including the little side mount table and griddle anymore, but they still have left the hardware here to mount one if you want to add one, and the Gas Grill Quick Connect is still present. They've maintained the use of the gas and electric water heaters. I will say, though, I don't personally love the location of the furnace exhaust in the water heater, but on this floor plan, they have no other place to really put it, so I get it. Not being a bunkhouse, I don't have to worry about little kids touching hot surfaces. It doesn't bother me near as much. There is some serious dollars and cents involved just on the camera frame right here. It begins with the Goodyear Endurance radials. You can't really see the balancing beads. They're just in the tires. I don't know how big of a believer I am in those personally. I've heard some very mixed reviews. I would love to hear from someone who works in like a tire shop. What is, your, impression and expectation and history with those things? They also do have factory standard tire pressure monitoring, which you see over here from Road Tech. This is a brand that's kind of punching in on the ground that TST had been using for a while, but it seems to be pretty solid. I'll tell you this, Rockwood doesn't use something unless it's very solid, like changing from Asdel to the NT-XT composite paneling on the sidewalls. That was a big deal. Your underbelly of this is enclosed. It does have the holding tank heat pads also, by the way. On the back is another good example of what I call Rockwood doing Rockwood things, where they have an and instead of or. They give us a bumper and a rear receiver hitch instead of an or. How much you want to bet they did not unlock this? Good news, though, I got keys. This is what I love to call the junk in the trunk storage space. This is the back of that U-dinette. You can get to it from the inside, but you don't necessarily have to. Now, duck, dip, diving, and dodging over everything here. Getting you to the back side of this sucker, you can see how they do include a roof access ladder. That's 250-pound rated factory standard, so you don't have to worry about finding extra storage space for a portable telescopic or anything like that. This is also a rack and pinion slide system with laminated walls. Some manufacturers make a big deal about how their walls are laminated, as though to imply a non-laminated sidewall is not structural. You can still build a structural non-laminated slide wall It's just, they just build this one this way. I've never really noticed a significant benefit or drawback either way in my career. So thanks again for tuning in, everybody. Check the links in the video description for pricing and availability. I'll have one link to get you to our website for the Rockwood pricing and a second link to get you to our website for the Flagstaff pricing, just because the model numbers are not necessarily identical in this case. Short of that, I might also leave you some links to some other builders who have a similar layout. Take a look at those, and you decide for yourself which one you like better, because I'm not the authority. It's your money. You decide. I just want to help give you the information to make an educated decision. And if you appreciate that difference, hit that subscribe button, and maybe we'll see you again. So take care, stay safe, have fun, and happy camping, everyone.